Hi, my name is Emily Terpak, and I am a realtor in Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs in Pennsylvania and South Jersey. So I'm going to talk you through a little of my story from when I was installing air conditioning into my home and why I ended up choosing mini splits. I'm also going to talk about the cost so you can weigh that as well. I will start off by saying that I've put about $100,000 into my home so far, and of all of the repairs and upgrades I've made, my mini splits have been the best purchase to date. It's not even a contest. But let's compare air conditioning systems because I was truly torn between going the more traditional route and doing forced air conditioning, which requires ductwork and vents like you see here, or to do mini splits, which are these white wall units. Now let's go into the pros and cons of mini splits and forced air conditioning. We'll start with the mini splits. Pros, they heat and cool. So a lot of people think that they just do air conditioning, but they can also be used to heat your home as well. So essentially, when you install these, you're getting a new heating and cooling system. Another pro, they're zoned. Okay, what does that mean? So you have something called a mini split head, which is the white box that sits on your wall. You will typically have one head per room. Or if your first floor is open concept, you might be able to do one head to cover that entire area. But because there are multiple heads, you can set each one to a different temperature, which creates different zones. For example, let's say you like your bedroom really cold when you sleep. With mini splits, you can make the head in that particular bedroom 60 degrees, and the rest of the house can be at 69 degrees. So essentially, each room can be at a different temperature. Which brings me to my next point, which is that they are more energy efficient. Let's say you're not even using two rooms in your home. Just turn the mini splits off. That way you're not heating or cooling rooms in the house that aren't in use. The last pro is that they don't require ductwork. So ductwork is required for forced air conditioning. However, depending on how your house is constructed, they might not be able to conceal everything behind the walls. In that case, you'll have a bump out where the ductwork is. And as you can see, this is bulky and will eat into your space. You might also need to run ductwork through closets, which will definitely compromise those areas as well. Now let's go into the cons. But honestly, I feel like there's only one. It's the fact that you'll have a white box that sits on the wall. It's something that I went back and forth on a lot because I'm a big aesthetics person, but the pros outweighed this single con, and now I hardly notice that they're there. Now let's go into forced air conditioning pros and cons. In my opinion, there's only really one pro, and that is, it's a little prettier. See, when the soffits, aka the drywall around the ductwork, is painted, you could argue that it blends into the space pretty well. So from a looks perspective, it's probably more attractive than having a white box on your wall. But let's move over to the cons. Different floors, different temperatures. That's because cold air sinks. So in the summertime, your first floor might be the temperature you have your thermostat set to, but the second floor is going to be warmer, period. However, with mini splits, since you set each head to its own temperature, you can control this a lot easier. The next con, it's louder. Those outside condensers for forced air conditioning are significantly louder than the mini split condenser equivalent. And finally, the last con, forced air conditioning is hard to retrofit. This means it might not run or work as well as homes that were built with central air in place already. Okay, let's dive into price. In 2022, for 6 mini split heads, I paid $25,000. Now, just a reminder, I use mini splits for heating and cooling, so I got 2 new systems for $25,000. One thing to note is that each outside condenser can hold up to 5 mini split heads. Unfortunately, I needed 6 mini split heads, which meant I needed an extra outside condenser. Between that 6th mini split head and that extra condenser, that increased my price by about $6,000. So if you don't need more than 5 mini split heads, your quote should be less than mine. Now, had I gone with forced air conditioning, the quote was $18,000. But before you get too excited, just know that this didn't include adding the soffits around the ductwork and painting. See, if you didn't add drywall around your ductwork, it would just look like this, which unless you're in a chic industrial loft condo with 12-foot ceilings, they're not that attractive. And if I wanted the new HVAC unit to heat and cool, that would have cost me even more. So once I factored that in and the extra drywall and painting, the price was more neck and neck with mini splits. I also want to touch upon what brand I went with, since there are quite a few out there. The two HVAC companies that I got quotes from recommended Daikin and Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi is probably the most popular, but Daikin I think is right under that. Now at the time that I had mine installed, Daikin had a longer warranty, so that's who I ended up going with. And after 3 years, I haven't had a single issue. In the end, the choice is obviously yours, but for me, the pros of the mini split outweighed the one con. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tap that like button and click here to subscribe. And for more videos, click here and here.